Hello and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at what could become potential Epsilon and then what could become potential tropical cyclone Zeta in the next couple of days. So first off, let's look at Epsilon. The storm has currently believe it or not, 70 to 80% chance of forming. So this is where it's currently located, right southeast of Bermuda, pretty much, just right east of Bermuda there. And it has gotten fairly organized and it could become what looks to be a subtropical cyclone. And if you look at the next 5-day graph here, you're going to be able to see that we also have a disturbance in the Caribbean. So here's where this what has been designated Invest 94L. It's currently expected to meander southward, and then actually push back and go in this general direction. So doing a little bit of a southward and then going a westward turn and back north a little bit. A couple models bring it a little bit closer to shore. A couple models bring it back out to sea. So it's going to be mostly meandering for the next 48 hours up to the next 72 hours, generally southwestward, at least for the time being. And it could bring some swells to the east coast and the Caribbean. But other than that, it shouldn't be too much of a threat to land except for potential later impacts in Bermuda. Now, this disturbance here, it has a 30% chance, and the GSFN has been consistent on showing something develop out of this, which could be a tropical low forming around here and then becoming something as it generally moves like this. Again, we've seen a couple different options for this, but generally it is expected to go over Cuba or over Florida. Yesterday's models were very interesting as it showed it actually going back down like this, which was extremely interesting, but we'll take a look after. So here's what 94L currently looks like. That's 70% chance, and you can see that, in my opinion, it has a lot less than 80% chance to form. It was looking a lot better yesterday, but its center of circulation has gotten better organized, but it remains a fairly disorganized system with that center around here. Of course, you can see that low-level center pretty much right here, actually. So this is where that low-level center is currently located. And then we have some thunderstorms and cloudness kind of wrapping around here. So what we want for that, of course, is to continue to wrap around, but we really need more convection because we really have a little bit of cloud-covered convection, but that's really it. We really don't have much, and we really need a whole lot more. Now, you can clearly see that rotation with the cloud cover, but the thing is, again, you can see here it is starting to separate from that what could be inhibiting the development of the system. And when that does happen, we could see this fully close off with some convection around it, which would really help it, because at the moment it continues to have a open center. It does have close to a closed center, but it does not have a covered center. It has an exposed center. And just as you can see, we have very little convection here, very little convection. So just overall not a lot of convection. Alright, so looking at the Strax model, as you can see, like I said, it will be meandering southward for the next 24 to 48 hours or so, and the models don't really know where it's going, okay? Some models are taking it, as you can see, doing some kind of loop. Some models take it like this, other models take it all the way like that. So it is a little bit, we just don't really know where it's going, and which is why if there was a cone, look how big that would be, because we just don't know where this is going. But generally, again, most models bring it southward for the next 48 hours or so, and then some pick it back north, or it may continue south and westward, and then back up north a little bit. But it does remain fairly uncertain where it is likely to go, because just of how, we just don't really know where it's going, to be honest. But here's Bermuda, as you can see, some impacts possible, but it may just go to the east of Bermuda. So really something we're going to have to pay attention closely. Alright, so now looking at the intensity guidance, every single model actually shows it becoming a tropical storm. As you can see, most models show it becoming a tropical storm in around 36 hours or so. So maybe Monday or Tuesday. And then it does bring it slowly into strengthening. A couple models bring it to hurricane status, but it's likely looks like to be at around strong to moderate tropical cyclone. So now let's look at the sea surface temperatures for both of the cyclones here. First of all, looking at what could become our next tropical cyclone, we'll have more in depth on that later in the video. But first off, looking at potential Epsilon 94, let's look at it around here. So it has 27 to 26 degrees water, not the best to blow up, obviously, convection and cloud cover, but still a fairly good amount of water. As a render southwestward, it should come in some 28 to 29 degrees water, which could definitely help it to develop further and then pick back up. So it does have a pretty good chance to really intensify a bit further as they move in those warmer waters. On the other hand, where we could have our next tropical cyclone, it will have 30 to 31 degrees waters. So definitely some favorable conditions. All right, so now I want to look at the GFS specifically, not for what is currently 94L, but for actually our next cyclone here. So first off, you can see right here, this is 94L here. This is in 30 hours, so already, close low and everything. But really, what I really want to pay attention a lot more to is this here. As you can see, in around 60 hours, we actually get this system here forming in the southwestern Caribbean, as well as, of course, where this 94L is now. And this is obviously really concerning because as we look on, this really starts to pick up in strength, as well as, again, 94L here. And honestly, we could have impacts, fairly major impacts with this. So as we get into the next couple of days, actually 94L does become a significant hurricane, 983 millibars, not impacting much areas. And then we actually get, as you can see here, Zeta also becoming a significant hurricane. Now, on this model run, we don't get too much from Zeta except a weak tropical storm going through Cuba, and then generally heading like this. And the 94L does become a hurricane as well. So we don't get too much from those two systems. But if we look at the previous model runs, we do actually get a little bit more of just a little bit more. I mean, you're going to see, but we do actually get quite a bit more impacts. And as we look on this model run, in 168 hours, as you can see here, we already have a much stronger potential Zeta, potential 95L, 993 millibars further west already, and then moving towards Florida with winds with pressure of 972. On the other hand, 94L, we have a much weaker 94L, which could obviously impact. And I think the stronger 94L becomes, the more what could become a 95L would get pushed out towards 94L because it would pull it, obviously. And the weaker it would be, the more it would have a slower curve, if that makes sense. And then obviously, this is all going to depend, but we would also have some kind of high pressure potentially building up here. So this is something we're going to have to keep an eye on as well. But as you can look on that model run, it actually ends up making a 962 millibars landfall on the west coast of Florida. And again, this one remains fairly weak, but we actually have this making a landfall on the west coast of, the east coast of Florida. And actually, this would bring a significant amount of rainfall. And if we change this, if we change this Western Atlantic, if we change this to the 850 millibar winds, you can see that this would bring significant, because you have a 962 millibar system making landfall and actually staying in that same area and doing some kind of loop, and that would just bring significant amount of impacts, as you would think. I mean, that rainfall would be absolutely tremendous if that were to happen. Now, that was one model run yesterday, and then it significantly weakens, as you can see here, remaining still over Florida for a couple of days, and then makes a second landfall in Florida and actually would re-strengthen and move south. And this is honestly one of the weirdest model runs I've seen. Forms here, comes like this, go like that, comes back here, comes back south, go like that, and then moves back south. I've never seen that weird of a track. Look how weird that is. Look how weird of a track that is. Now, it probably wouldn't happen. I mean, the new model run makes a lot more sense, just boom straight up north. But that was just interesting to see, and I think one of the main reasons for that is 94L doesn't get stronger than 1,004 millibars. So that is definitely a major impact, because if you have a very weak low pressure, it's not really going to get impacted. But if you have a fairly strong low pressure up here, this is going to be taking it more in the general same direction as that already formed pressure. So definitely something. So now looking at that wind shear, as you can see, it only has 10 to 20 knots of wind shear, so not too bad. And then for the Caribbean, currently in 25-30 knots, but we'll see if that does decrease. Alrighty, now I quickly want to look at the European model on windy here. And as you can see, again, we do have 94L here making its way throughout the Atlantic right here. We do have that definitely taking impact there. And then as we get into the next couple of days, 94L kind of remains there as a low pressure system. And again, we do get by Tuesday, we do see to start some rotation in the southwestern here. We're looking at rotation, but we still have that fairly low pressure continuing to meander southwestward again. And this is really even on that European model, this is really going to be taking impact. And boom, by early Wednesday, late Tuesday, we do have a low pressure forming. So that would mean what could be potentially again 95L. And then we do have, keep in mind, we do have this high pressure here, which would pull the system. So we do have that high pressure taking place in that area as well. So that would then start to push it back north, of course. But we really, other than that here, we just don't have anything to really push this anywhere. And you're going to be able to see that it's really going to be meandering in the southwestern Atlantic or Caribbean for a while. And it really doesn't become a very strong system on the European model, and does actually end up just kind of moving up north and ends up making a landfall in what looks to be the Florida Panhandle and comes back out, but as a very, very weak system, but nonetheless a tropical system. And again, now with that high pressure here, this obviously gets pulled here. But again, very weak system, and it does look like the weaker it is, the more likely it is to just kind of go north or get pulled out. So the European model, again, really doesn't show much from that particular system. On the other hand, again, though, the GFS already has a fairly established low pressure, and again, just follows it. As you can see here, it just follows what's already established. It just follows it pretty directly, follows it right out to sea, which would obviously be good news. The NAM model, though, no, we can't see if it forms it or not. So, overall, we're going to have to see how that just ends up developing, but it's definitely something we're going to have to keep attention for potential impacts to Bermuda, Florida, Cuba, and maybe even Hispaniola or Mexico. Really, I mean, right now, I think Louisiana should be unclear, but right now I'm going to say this entire area should watch out for potential impacts from this as it moves in this gun. But thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be back with a new video.